Well, we can talk about Brian Wolf while I...
Oh, let's talk about Wolfie.
Yeah, while I get my notes.
What a
Yes.
player. What a player. You know, cast your mind back, 25, 30 years. You know, the Fleet were then being managed by a guy called Al Ackerman. Now, Al Ackerman was an interesting manager. He was a South African guy. He played over here with Millwall, and he was what you would describe as a burly centre forward. And he used to eat centre halves for breakfast and spit their bones out. And when he went into the non-league game, he went to Dartford and was a prolific player with Dartford, who then were, on a level par with the Fleet. And he used to terrorise defences all across the land. And then he became their manager. And then after a period of time, he got disaffected with them and he came to the Fleet. And he signed these two guys from what was a working men's club out on the Rochester Peninsula called Who Working Men's Institute. And these two guys, which effectively were playing kind of Sunday morning football, that level, they came to the club with very little ballyhoo. And it was Brian Wolf and another guy called Ken Burrett. And Ken Burrett was a tough tackling kind of Steven Gerrard type player who could play in midfield, could play at the back, could raid up front. Sort of Gerrard, Gareth Barry type player. And Brian Wolf was a mercurial winger. And he, of course, in that era, every player played with a mullet hairstyle. And it was a great sight to see with Wolfie running down the left wing with his hair flying, dropping his shoulder and going round players like they didn't exist before crossing for somebody else to convert the cross into a goal. And not only that, but when he was able to move into the middle, he was a terrific finisher, especially with his head. And he would climb above everybody else and tip the ball into the net. So all round, he was just one great player. And in those days, you didn't have the kind of conditioning and physical workouts that the players have today. And those days, players like Brian Wolf, they'd almost, I'm not saying he did this, but, they almost came out of the pub and onto the pitch. It was just football of a different era. And they played with a smile on their face, and Brian Wolf brought a lot of satisfaction to Fleet fans. And he featured in a forward line with two other players, Andy Woon and Steve Brown. And the Woon-Wolf-Brown axis was one of the greatest forward lines the Fleet ever saw.
Wow. Thank you, Charles. Boy, you painted a great picture.
I wish you could have seen it. Honestly, It's one of my most endearing and enduring memories of watching the Fleet over many years. Brian Wolf, unassuming guy, big smile on his face. He used to get chopped down by, crude tackles from defenders. He got up and he'd just take the nicky out of them and leave them on their backside. And, he'd dribble the ball at pace, get a cross in, and the Fleet answered any kind of physical presence from the opposition by putting a goal in the back of their net.
Wow. Oh, man. Well, this sort of segues nicely to my last point. I was watching this program, Italian sports program, last Sunday, and Sunday was 10-10-10. So the program was on number 10, just all these great number 10 players, not only in Italy but throughout the world. And so it got me to thinking, does the Fleet have a number 10, a traditional number 10 player? Would that be...
I think in this country, it's more of a number, whereas in other countries it's a position. And what goes with the number is a kind of playmaking schema, whereas in this country it's not quite as closely connected. Although for me, the one constant that I always turn to, when I think of that number, is the legend, the greatest player that ever pulled on the Fleet shirt in the time that I've been watching them, and that's Steve Portway. who's the club's goal-scoring record holder. And he was number 10, and he was very much a striker. He played alongside for most of his time with the Fleet a player called Mickey Cotter. But Portway, his time at the club, it's a shame we didn't have another 10 players as good as he was in the job that he did, because if we did, we would have risen up the leagues and won cups and trophies all over the place. But as a number 10, he's the only one that would stick out in my mind. Of course, in the modern era, numbering is somewhat different. While we were in the conference, we had numbers up to sort of 33 or whatever.
Sure.
So squad numbering became the vogue. But now we're back in the lower division. We have 1 to 11 plus the substitute. And, each week number 10 can be somebody different. So it tends not to be associated with a position, more with, the player on the day. But, if you said to me who was the, most memorable number 10 at Ebbsfleet, I'd turn to Steve Portway, and we can talk about Steve Portway on another occasion in more detail.
Yes.
But, just as we talked about Brian Wolf tonight, maybe some of the listeners, have got other players that they'd like to explore in other discussions. But for me, Portway was the best number 10 that ever pulled on the red shirt.
Wow. Well, thank you. Wow, thank you for both trips down memory lane and for explaining that to me. All right, well, Charles, I think that's about all I have.
Good stuff.
Unless you have anything else, I will, first of all, thank you, and I will talk to you next week, and hopefully we'll have a good result to talk about.
Absolutely, and we'll see you in cyberspace.
All right. Take
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again, Charles. I just can't say it enough. Well, as you may know by now, we win that game 1-0 on a Michael West goal. Now, on to the other teams. First off, the ladies. Well, they're still sitting mid-table, 10 points, after that loss to Tottenham, 4-0. Now, next up is another tough match, this time in the Southeast Combination League Cup qualifier at Luton Town on Sunday, October 24th. I know our ladies will play them tough, regardless of the outcome. And how about that youth team in the FA Cup run? A 5-1 win over Red Hill FC. What's that song by U2? Red Hill Mining Town? Well, it was Red Hill FC that went down and not Ebbsfleet. 5-1 win. Now, it looks like the youth team will be away against Brighton and Hove Albion in the first round proper. That game will be on November 3rd at Bognor Regis Town FC. Way to go, lads. Now, I wonder if this is the farthest we've gotten in a youth cup run. And more importantly, who are these kids? I'm going to get in touch with Ed and see if I can get some names for you. Now, these lads are clearly showing potential and might be the stars of the future. So we should find out who they are. That's all I have for you today. Remember, you can follow the Fleet everywhere. On Facebook at facebook.com/myfootballclub for all the late-breaking news, likes, dislikes, and Roka's guerrilla marketing. On Twitter, which I don't tweet, but someone is there updating the damn thing. As always, ebbsfleet.co.uk, where Ed Miller does a fantastic job of updating the men's, ladies, and youth teams. In-depth reports and historical archives. That's where I glean my information. And of course, myfootballclub.co.uk. The new website has been up for a month. It's much more user-friendly. Get all the latest reports about MYFC, all the happenings, all the goings-on, the votes, proposals, etc., etc. After all, that's why we got into it. My club, your club, our club. The Fleet right now is going great guns. We're 5th in the league, right? 19 points. We are on the cusp of getting to the first round of the FA Cup. So support the team. Till next time, this is your humble narrator signing off. Up the fleet.
Dos